We're live.
We're live?
We're live.
Woohoo! Okay, so now we're studying eclipses. Have you ever seen an eclipse? There's lunar eclipses and there's solar eclipses, so we're going to talk about that. So the first thing you need to understand is how an eclipse occurs. There's two types of eclipses. Are you with me over there, Amy? Are you with me?
Yeah, I'm writing my notes down.
Oh, you're so good. Okay, so one type of eclipse is called a solar eclipse. And that's when the moon comes between the sun and the earth. And the moon throws a shadow onto the earth. That's a solar eclipse. And if you're standing here on the earth, looking toward the sun, the moon gets in the way and blocks out the sun. It really scared the ancient peoples whenever that happened. They thought the sun went out. They started killing everybody, and then all of a sudden the sun comes back. They go, "Whew, it's a good thing we killed that guy that made the sun come back. Let's do that next time a solar eclipse comes. Let's kill somebody." And you see how that got started. Now, another way is called a lunar eclipse. If the moon is on this side right here, the shadow of the earth covers the moon up, and you can't see the moon as well. That's a lunar eclipse.
So when the shadow of the earth
Covers up the moon. That's a lunar eclipse.
What's the difference between a lunar eclipse and a new moon?
Okay, so a new moon is when the moon's over here, and you can't see the moon because it's kind of the same general direction as the sun. But if the moon's on this side, it's a full moon usually. But if the moon falls into the shadow of the earth, you won't be able to see it.
Gotcha.
That's a lunar eclipse, yeah.
Bro, can I ask you a question about a full moon?
Hit me with a question about the full
Okay,
moon.
what's the deal with people saying that, like, weird things happen on a full moon, like, with people, like, psychologically? Yeah, kind of like that.
It's just made up stuff. It's not real. There actually are a little bit more crime when there's a full moon.
Yeah.
And they think the reason for that is because it's brighter on the earth, because the light bounces off the moon and hits the earth, and you can actually see at night a little bit in a full moon. So there's more people out, thus more crime.
Gotcha.
But they don't think it has anything. It doesn't have anything to do with the moon actually being full and werewolves and all that. There's just stories about the full moon, and it's just fun tales. Yes.
How long do the eclipses last?
Okay, well that depends on the eclipse. So we're going to start with solar eclipse first, and then we're going to talk about lunar eclipse. But let me tell y'all something. This plane, this line between the Earth and the Sun, that's the plane in which the Earth orbits the Sun. The Earth goes around the Sun in this plane. We call this plane the ecliptic. And the thing about the moon orbiting the Earth, the moon actually orbits at a 5-degree tilt to the ecliptic. So the moon doesn't go straight around this way. The orbit of the moon has a tilt to it, like this. So normally you don't see an eclipse, because normally the moon will either be too high this way or too low on the other side this way. And you normally won't see an eclipse. The only way to get an eclipse is if it lines up just right where the moon is coming in and it's just even so that the moon blocks the sun. And that's a very rare occurrence. Eclipses are pretty rare because of the 5-degree tilt of the moon in its orbit around the Earth. Does that make sense? So that's what they're showing in this picture. Here's the Earth, and the Earth is tilted 23 degrees on its axis. And this blue line right here is the ecliptic plane. That's the plane that the Earth orbits the Sun. And here's the moon. You see the moon is tilted at a 5-degree angle. The orbit of the moon is tilted at a 5.14-degree angle. And that makes it so eclipses are very rare. If there was no tilt to the moon's orbit, you would get an eclipse every time you had a full moon or a new moon. Every time you had a new moon, it would come in front of the sun and you'd get an eclipse. And every time you had a full moon, it would go behind the earth and you'd get an eclipse. If there was no tilt to the moon's orbit. But since the moon's orbit is tilted, you rarely get those eclipses. Yeah?
Is there a reason why it's tilted?
That's a great question.
Thank you.
We don't really know why that's tilted. But we think it has to do with how the moon formed. We think the moon formed from an impact between the Earth and another planet. And that impact might have been slightly off-center, and so made it a little bit tilted. And we'll talk about how that impacted the formation of the moon in a later chapter. Do it, Jack.
Thank you.
How y'all doing so far?
Thank you, Maggie.
PG? PG means pretty good. PG-13, that's pretty good with a little bit of cussing.
Yeah.
What's R stand for?
Restricted. Can't go to those. Alright, so, there's the Earth. Here's the moon, and this pic diagram is showing what a solar eclipse looks like. So when the moon, if it's just on the right angle and the moon gets right between the sun and the earth, then a shadow of the moon will be cast on the earth. Now that shadow there has two parts. There's a part in the middle that's really dark, and we call that the umbra. The umbral shadow is really dark.
This is in the solar?
This is a solar eclipse. So this is when the moon is between the earth and the sun. And you get a really dark part, and there you see it there on the earth. That part right there, that little circle there is really dark. That's called the umbra. And then you get an area that's not quite as dark. It's called the penumbra. In the penumbra, you have what's called a partial eclipse. That means if you're standing right there on Africa, let's say you're standing right there and looking toward the sun, only part of the sun would be eclipsed. You'd see a little bit, you'd see if you were to look at the sun, and you can't look at the sun really without some eye shielding. Several sunglasses would block out enough so you could kind of look at the sun. And if you're in the penumbra, you'd see the sun, and you'd see the moon partially eclipsing the sun. You would see something that kind of looks like that, and that's the moon's shadow there, and there's the sun behind it. So that's called a partial eclipse. I guess it would kind of look like this. And anywhere where you're standing on Earth where there's a partial eclipse, not quite as much sunlight is getting through. So you end up with kind of just a shadowy area. Can you see that? Can you see that light-colored shadow there?
Yeah.
That's called the penumbra. But if you're standing right in the middle of that dark circle there, we call that the umbra, and that's really dark. That means the entire moon here, if you were to move this disk over, the entire moon would be in front of the sun. And the moon is just big enough where it completely covers the sun. And you get a complete eclipse. And it only lasts for a short period of time because the moon moves and will move past it.
So it lasts for like a day?
No, it'll last for like 7 minutes.
Oh.
When is the next eclipse?
Yeah. And it's also because the Earth, the moon will be moving and get in front of the sun. And then see this whole thing, as the moon moves and as the Earth moves, it gets out of alignment. You see what I'm saying? So it's really a short period of time that they're all lined up together.
Yeah.
What were you going to say?
When's the next eclipse?
The next total solar eclipse is August 21st of next year.
Really?
And it's the first one that's come through near here in like 30 years. The last one was when I was y'all's age and I was in high school.
So exactly 1 year, basically.
Almost exactly 1 year from today, there'll be a solar eclipse come through. I'll show you the map here at the end. It comes through right through South Carolina, and there hasn't been one like that for 30 something years.
We're gonna be in the
So,
Penumbra.
what's that?
We're gonna be in the Penumbra.
No, we're going to be in the Penumbra. If you want to get to the Umbra, you'll have to drive up to South Carolina. I'm going to take next year's astronomy class. If I have extra seat, you can come.
What? That's so cool.
Maybe we can get a couple of buses.
So will it be during the day and it'll just be completely
2:45. And it'll only last 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
But it'll just get completely dark?
Completely dark.
Oh, I'm coming.
Don't go crazy. Don't start killing people.
At when? During the day?
Yep. During the day, the sun is blocked out by the moon for an instant. It'll get real cool, real dark.
Oh my gosh.
It's gonna be like the cloud over, or even darker than that.
Oh, way darker. Way darker than
Like
the cloud.
nighttime?
Like nighttime.
Whoa.
Like darker than night? Or?
Like nighttime.
Oh my gosh. That's so cool. I can't wait.
I'm just gonna go. I mean, I don't have to be there with Fred. I'll just go.
I'm definitely going.
Like,
Of
do you
course,
just
if it's cloudy, you won't be able to see it.
can you just
You gotta
go
hope for good weather.
like anywhere in South Carolina?
I'll show you where. I got a little map here. Okay?
All right.
So here's what it looks like as the moon covers the sun, and they've just shown, they have a series of pictures here. So there's the sun, and here's the moon starting to move over it, and you can see as we go down to the right here, the moon is moving more and more over the sun. This is what it would look like, and again, you have to have real dark sunglasses, or like a welder's mask, really, is what they like you to use to look at this. But it'll cover, and then it'll be fully covered. And there, when it's fully covered, you can see peeking out of the sides of where the moon has covered it, you'll see little rays of the outside atmosphere of the sun. This is the outer layer of the sun called the sun's corona, which you normally can't see. Normally you can't see the corona because the rest of the sun is so bright, it's way brighter than the corona that you can't see the corona. But when the moon's covering it, it'll take your eyes a minute to adjust, and then you'll be able to see the corona on the outside. And then you can look right at it because it's not bright at this point. But then if you wait another minute or so, the sun starts peeking back out and it gets too bright again to really look at unless you have the welder.
How cold does it get?
Just like it's about as cold as it does at night. But since there's only a couple of minutes, there's not much time to cool off and get much warmer. But you can tell it's colder. Yes.
So why do people start killing everybody if it only lasts for a couple minutes?
Because they thought the sun went out.
So like just immediately within like 2 minutes they started killing everyone?
Yeah.
It's kind of a rash decision.
Yeah, that's what happened. They get kind of scared when the sun goes out. And so I don't know if they really killed anybody, but you hear about sacrifices and that sort of stuff from ancient peoples whenever there's eclipses. So anyway, the sun comes back, the moon continues to pass along, and eventually it's the entire sun again. So that's an eclipse. And there we go. That's a picture of the moon totally covering the sun up, and that's the corona, the outer parts of the sun there that can be seen. Again, normally you can't see the outer atmosphere of the sun because the rest of the sun is so bright, you wouldn't be able to see it. You can only see that easily when the moon is covering it up. And this is a picture taken from a satellite looking at the Earth. That's the big umbral shadow on the Earth.
That's what it looks like?
Yeah, that's what the Earth looks like with the shadow of it.
That's so cool.
I'd freak out if I didn't know what it was.
Do you think a lot of people from like all over the country are going to come to South Carolina?
Like, do you have to be in any part, or just be like...
No, okay, well, let me go to that map, because you'll have a lot of questions about this. What is happening?
You're playing the video
It's on the
underneath
wrong
it.
screen.
Oh my word.
This is
Hold on, let's watch this video.
You think it's
What if we just,
preposterous?
playing,
Preposterous.
playing a good old round of golf and
Mr. Willis, I took my
So you
quiz.
plan to be playing golf next year in the eclipse?
hope so. Hope so. Really hoping.
That's a good hope. How do you feel about the eclipse, Chris?
I'm excited.
You gonna go see it?
Watch the video.
I'm gonna be aerobics swimmer.
Time of first contact, and you can't see the disk of the sun at the moment. It's obscured by low cloud. The edge of the moon is at this point just beginning to touch the disk of the sun. You can see the sun emerging through the clouds. You can see the disk. Oh, you can see the moon. Can you see the moon on the top? Oh yeah.
I didn't see it. I was chilling in the water.
What?
You can see the celestial mechanics, the clockwork of the solar system at work. The alignment is absolutely perfect.
Oh my god.
Are you gonna provide those cool glasses,
Yeah,
Mr. Willis? You will?
We'll have the glasses.
Oh yeah. That's good. I'm freaked out.
Oh my god.
Solar system that we are on ball of rock,
Oh, look
orbiting
how
around
small
the
it
sun
looks
with
out of
other
that.
balls of rock.
And then when they zoom
Then
in,
look
it's
at
like
that.
completely around
That's
it.
the solar system coming down and grabbing you by the throat.
Huh? Was that cool?
That was like the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, 'cause especially if you've never seen that and you have no idea what's going on. So let me go back. Oh, here's the map.
Yeah, seriously.
So, this picture shows where the eclipse is going to come. So, because the Earth is spinning, eclipses move from west to east like this. And this is where the Umbra is. Now, the Penumbra is much wider. The Penumbra will cover all of the United States.
Oh.
But the Umbra moves right through this point, right through there, and will come across right there through South Carolina. You see that?
What is the other, like, what states up north does it go through? Do you know? Like,
Okay, this one right here happens in 2024. This one right here. That's a different eclipse.
Where's that going to be? Pretty soon.
where's that crossover at?
There?
Yes.
I don't know.
You don't know.
Wait, so that whole blue line
Stays
is
there.
where it
What state
happens?
is that? I don't know.
Ohio.
I don't know.
This whole blue line, the Umbra will pass all the way through this blue line.
Oh, okay. I thought it was
See?
like only South Carolina.
No, all of these are different times. So, like in 2001, there was an eclipse that went through Africa.
Oh, wow.
In 2008, there was one that went through Asia here. And there was one
But
This one happened in
everyone goes through the
2015.
Penumbra.
The Penumbra is the wider area, the wider shadow. And the wider shadow will cover all the United States.
How dark will
How
that
dark is
be?
that? Yeah.
The wider shadow doesn't get nearly as dark.
Oh.
Like evening time? Like
Yeah,
okay.
it depends on how close you are to the Umbra.
All right.
So it's darker if you're real close to the Umbra than if you're not.
Why are the umbras thicker, like wider, and at the poles?
Okay, that has to do with how they arrange this map. So do you know that when you flatten out a map, it makes everything at the poles seem a lot bigger?
Right, yeah.
Like, look how big Antarctica looks here.
Right.
It's not really that big.
Okay.
Antarctica is smaller than Australia in
Right.
actuality. So,
So they're not actually that thick.
you know, that's just the way
Okay,
the map is.
got it.
That
Make
is
sense?
So
So,
cool.
and this is the first time we've had one come this close to us. Like I said, it's been more than 30 years. So, and after this passes through, we'll get one sort of near us in 2024, and then we won't have another one for a real long time. So this is probably the only time in your life, unless you travel somewhere around the globe, that you'll get to easily see a solar eclipse next year.
Which one did you see when you were in high school? Like where was it?
I never saw it at the Umbra. I just saw the Penumbra. I was here on campus.
Did everybody like go
1986.
outside?
It was either 84 or 86, something like that. Yeah, we went outside, we walked around, we looked at it with the glasses. We could see part of the sun was covered. Pretty cool? So this is a special type of eclipse. It's called an annular eclipse. Now you need to understand this. The moon does not orbit the Earth in a perfect circle. The moon orbits the Earth in an ellipse. Do y'all remember what an ellipse is? It's like a flattened circle. And sometimes the moon is far from the Earth, and at other times the moon is near the Earth. So if you get an eclipse when the moon is far from the Earth, then the moon will be too far from the Earth to completely cover up the sun. That's called an annular eclipse.
When it's too far up.
When the moon is too far from the Earth to completely cover the sun up. And the sun, even though the moon, and this is a picture of an annular eclipse, there's the moon, the outline of the moon, but you can still see the sun on all sides of it. This is the sun itself. The moon doesn't cover the sun up fully. We call that an annular eclipse. And an annular eclipse won't get really dark outside. It's dark. It's not as light, but there's still a good amount of light coming from the sides of the sun here, and it's enough not to make it that dark. So we call that an annular eclipse. Can you say annular eclipse?
Annular eclipse.
So let's talk about a lunar eclipse now. So you got your solar eclipse. Now on the other side, if the moon comes behind the Earth and the shadow of the Earth is falling over the moon. Now remember, the moon is not really this close to the Earth. The moon is real far from the Earth if we had the models correct. So the odds of the Earth's shadow falling over the moon are not very good. But because the Earth is so much bigger than the moon, you get a lot more lunar eclipses than you do solar eclipses. So you get a lunar eclipse about twice a year. And I'll tell you if there's one coming up. I'm not sure when the next lunar eclipse is. You might be able to look that up on Google or something like that. Somebody Google, when is the next lunar eclipse? But anyway, here you can see the moon has going around the Earth, and then the moon goes through the shadow of the Earth. That's the lunar eclipse. And lunar eclipses last a lot longer. They can last several hours, not just a few minutes. And the moon is going through the shadow, and then it gets real dark, and it's hard to see the moon. It's like the moon disappears for a little bit. That's a lunar eclipse.
I think it's saying in February.
February?
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. February what?
10th. It
February
says 10th/11th.
Oh, okay. So it's probably occurs at midnight. 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. or something like that. I saw a good one. There was a good one last year. Good lunar eclipse.
Like it was. Did you saying it's really really dark on that one side? That one little piece right there.
Oh, the
Here?
moon gets
Yeah.
like red.
Yeah, the moon disappears.
Yeah.
It's like it's a full moon. It always happens on a full moon because the moon has to be on the other side, right? And so you'll have a full moon, and you'll be going, oh, cool, it's a full moon. Check it out, moon's so great. Whoa, where's the moon going? And you see the shadow of the Earth fall over the moon, and then the moon will almost disappear. It doesn't really disappear, and I'll show you why. It gets kind of a red color.
Yeah.
And you can see it here. So here's the moon, and everything's good. And then this is what you see. And that's the Earth's shadow coming over the moon. Do you see how the Earth's shadow is kind of round? Because the Earth is round. By the way, this was evidence to some of the early Greek scientists that the Earth was round. Because they would see a round shadow coming over the moon.
Wait, I think I saw that the other
Lunar
like
eclipse.
it was like recent because I saw a red moon pretty recently.
Was it that red?
Yeah, it was really red.
Really?
Did it happen like
How
3
when was
years
the
ago?
last lunar eclipse?
Like a couple days ago.
No.
I saw a red moon.
No.
It's probably
So-
like when the full moon rises.
So covers darker, darker, and then it'll turn red. And the reason why it turns red is because the light coming from the sun is refracted by the atmosphere. Have y'all ever heard of refraction? That means bending of light. And so the Earth has a thin atmosphere all along its edges. And some of the light will hit that thin atmosphere and it'll be bent. The light will be bent and by the atmosphere. And what happens is the red light is only slightly bent, so it's slightly bent and hits the moon. The blue light is heavily bent and hits the Earth. That's why the sky's blue, because the atmosphere bends the light, and the light comes down and hits the Earth. So only the slightly bent rays will continue on, and those are red, and they hit the moon. So the moon appears red during a lunar eclipse. And ancient people who didn't know what was going on said, oh, the moon has turned to blood. We need to sacrifice another person. And so they go and get whoever they didn't like, and they sacrifice them. And that made the moon come back. You know, after the sacrifice, it stopped being red, and they came back, and they're like, see, the sacrifice worked. And so they continue to do that, not knowing that it's just the moon going in the shadow. Ancient peoples. Can't believe that. You want to see video of that?
Sure do.
Video of the moon turning to blood.
I saw this once when I was in middle school.
Why are you kidding? There was a red moon. Like
No, I over the August 18th, there's a special moon.
Yeah.
red.
Yeah, it says an almost
So
lunar.
here we go. The moon's getting covered up.
Well, dang, that went fast.
Well, we skipped
Mars.
some. Here, let me start it over. So they've sped this up for you.
This did happen. last year.
And it's not really that bright red, but they've turned up the camera so it can detect brighter.
Hey, that's bright.
And then the shadow's leaving.
Whoa.
Shadow of the Earth leaving. And now the moon finally, a couple hours later, the moon comes back. Yay! Sacrifice worked.
Hawaii.
Yeah, that was in Hawaii. So,
Science rules.
so that's a lunar eclipse. Does this make sense?
Yeah, I lost.
Questions about eclipses? Alright, so what we need to do now is we need to make teams. Have we made teams yet?
No.
Okay, so we're going to start playing a game called Astronomy. It's like Jeopardy, but it's Astronomy. And I'll ask questions, and whichever team, we make teams, and whoever team wins gets the most bonus points on the test. See what I'm saying? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Are we missing anyone?
Do you want me to film the astronomer game?
No, you don't have to film that. You can turn it on.
Do you have any last one?
By the way, I'll put these on YouTube.